Perfect, then we can start. Thank you for having me here. And when preparing this talk, I thought about some kind of metaphor or theming for what I'm going to present. And you know, this week has been marked by St. Valentine's Day. And there were a lot of couples, like couples were standing, having this attention, and I had a grumpy cat mode, and I said, like, why not talking about decoupling? So those are the options for St. Valentine's Day. And today we're going to talk about decoupling web development relationships. By that, I mean decoupling front-end development from the back-end development. What do I mean by this is that sometimes you have to mock away or fake your backend for the following reasons. Maybe you don't want to wait for the backend implementation because you're already there, you have to develop features quickly. Maybe you don't want to wait for test users. In my current project, for some particular properties of the test users, we have to wait up to 1 week. So it takes a lot of time. Maybe you don't want to change those users because it's irreversible, and maybe you just need some front-end app for your POC or tutorial to run up quickly. So for those reasons, you might want to fake your backend. And today we're going to talk about some options that we have in front-end in our Angular apps in particular. A couple of words about me. I'm Maria Korneeva. I most identify as a human being. I have a PhD in linguistics, and that's why I like all those metaphors and some puns. Currently, I'm working as a Frontend Technology Lead at Aleri Solutions. It's a small company in Germany. If you have any questions to this presentation or wanna just have a chat, feel free to ping me on social networks or write me an email. I have to disappoint you right now because I said like I like drawing and I provide some for this presentation. No, but I do this for my stories or articles, and I'm gonna write the text after this presentation, and then I promise I can also draw something funny for this. So what options I'm gonna talk today? First of all, if we wanna fake our backend, we can't just hard code the values we wanna receive. We can also load our JSON pretending that we're loading this real data via the AJAX, asynchronous JavaScript calls. We can use HTTP interceptors. This is an Angular specific feature. We can also use some libraries, and I'm going to focus on a JSON-server because this is the library of my choice. And there are some more exotic solutions. I'm going to briefly talk about them later on. So let's get started. The first option is hard-coded values or loading JSON data via our asynchronous requests. For this, I prepared a small application, which is this one. It's called FakebackendInterceptor, and it basically consists of one component and a service, which provides the data. So in here, we have some text, some information, which we get through the asynchronous pipe from our service, and the service requests it from some API. It's already started, so let's have a look. Here it is. So I decided to use a Bitcoin API because everyone is talking about Bitcoin, but it's really just a demo purposes. So far, so good. The data is coming from backend. We can see it in our network tab. So the network is here. Those are the values. We have around 261 entries in here. Now let's pretend we want to fake it. First option, as I said, was to hard code it. That would be like, let's comment this one in. That would be this line if you have just a couple of entries. In our case, we have over 200 entries. It's not maintainable. So I think it's better solution to outsource it or to store it in some file as we do it here. So if you notice, fake Bitcoin data comes from the JSON file, which is stored under assets. Fun fact, it is important that Angular knows where your JSON is stored. So assets is fine because Angular automatically looks into this folder. But if you want to have it somewhere else, you have to provide this information in Angular JSON so that Angular will look it there. So this is pretty straightforward. The next one would be to pretend that we load this data. Okay, let me just briefly show it to you. So with the application recompiled, and you see we have fake data in here. That's exactly what I put here. It's fake data. You can, yeah. We can even go even a bit further and use the HTTP client, because this brings us closer to the real implementation, because this is something which we have to remove once we're done with testing. So in here, it's we use the functionality of the client, HTTP client. But what we do is we pretend that we provide the path to the same file as above with the assets, as if this would be the API URL. And by this way, we can get the data too. So far, so good. But this approach has a couple of drawbacks. So first of all, we can only mock GET requests. We cannot post anything like this. This HTTP client is Angular specific, so loading data via pretending this is an HTTP request might not be supported by all JavaScript frameworks. You cannot really test error handling, because you can test for 404 if you change the path and the file is no longer found, but nothing like 500 or any 400, whatever, like unauthorized. So it's quite limited. And again, it's nothing like this implementation has nothing in common with the real one. Even the API URL is a different one. So let's move on. Let's have a look at the HTTP interceptor option. This is something which what Angular brings out of the box. And here we can have a look at the implementation. An HTTP interceptor is a specific service provided by Angular, and we can implement this interface so that we can intercept requests and responses. And this is actually what the official definition says. So interceptors allow us to intercept incoming or outgoing HTTP requests and change the value of the requests. But what if we want to change not only the value of the request, but the value of the response? Then we have our fake backend. Let's dig into the deeper into the details. So the interface of the interceptor forces us to implement intercept method. And in here, we can delegate it to some other methods. Like in here, it's handle requests. Here we can watch for specific requests and say we want to mock only the one which has this path and only with the method get. And then we can return whatever response we would like. So here we can also say, we can also return some error response. In our particular case, this is suitable for the backend, which is not implemented yet. And here we have to mock it completely. Let's comment it in. This is a small, fake, imaginary backend service that should, in the future, tell us whether we should buy or sell Bitcoins. And as it's stated here, we should buy them. So I commented it in. It's also a pipe that calls that fetches the data from suggestion API. We have this implementation, but what is also important, we need to provide it in our app module. So I provide it in here. And I think it's already recompiled. So now we have everything in place. Our component will request this fetch suggestion for a Bitcoin business. The request will be made, comes to the interceptor, and the interceptor intercepts it and responses with buy. Yeah, here it is. So, so far so good. However, even this option has some drawbacks too. And the first one is that you have to write additional Angular logic. So you basically provide some basic implementation for this. You have to provide this fake backend interceptor, and then you have to comment it out if you don't need it. So if you forget to comment it out, you ship it to the test environment. So it's kind of unhandy. So it's a nice, interesting solution. However, I think I wouldn't recommend to do it this way. My favorite way is to do it with a JSON-server. This is a library which you can easily install with npm install, and it's quite easy to configure it. The only thing that you need to do is to create a folder which is where you can call whatever you like. In my case, it's JSON-server backend. And in here, you have just two files. The first one is the database. So in here, you place all your mock data, and you name it somehow. So in my case, I named it Bitcoin market data and suggestion. Those are the two APIs that I'm calling in my application, or plan to call. And here comes the server, and this is the heart of the fake backend. Here I require it, I configure it, I provide the route, the path to the database, and then I can configure it to return my suggestion if I call this API suggestion, or if I call something which starts with V1, then to return Bitcoin market data. The last thing here is that when I configure it, then I can start the server and it's going to listen on the port 300, and then I could get the data from the fake backend from this database. The only missing point in here is that we want to differentiate if we should use we should proxy our request to the fake backend or to the real one. For this, first of all, we need to extend our package JSON. We are using the scripts. So we add two scripts. The first one is fake backend. This is the one which starts the fake backend. So it's node and then the path to the server file, this one. And the second one is a script that tells a command that tells Angular to start the application, which is ng-serve, with some additional properties. In this case, we're setting fake backend to true to indicate that now we're working with fake backend. We need this variable in our proxy configuration, because now we want to proxy our request depending whether it should be fake backend or the real one. And for this, we have a look at the proxy configuration file, which you can create for this purposes, or maybe you already have it. And in here, I'm doing the following. I specify the target URL. This is where my application is hosted. And then the context, all the APIs that should be matched and should be proxied somewhere. And then this is the most important part. I look at my variable, which is fake backend, and if it's set to true, I know I have to proxy my requests to the local host 3000 because this is where my fake backend is running on. And if not, then I just proxy it to the default target, meaning it's not a fake backend, I'm getting the real answers. So that's it. We have all the missing pieces. So I will start now the application. I will start the fake backend server. I will start the application, and the application will make some requests, and they will be proxied according to this rule to the fake backend. So, as I said, here are our scripts. So we run npm run fake backend, and the fake backend server is running. And here I stop the application, and here I need to run start fake backend, and my application is called fake backend, I guess. So the application has been compiled. Let's have a look what we have here. Oh, yeah, that's what happens when you demo something. So here we have the application. However, as I notice, this is still fake data and by. But what I want to be displayed is cell, and here fake data from JSON servers. So let's have a look what's missing. It's actually set to true. Did I comment something out? That would be what? Oh, I think I know what's missing. I forgot to comment this one out and to comment the real call back in, because here we were still requesting. Oh wait, that's a different. Here, that's one. We were still requesting the JSON data, and we actually want to make a real call. So I comment it back in. And I have to, since fake backend is not part of Angular, we have to, yeah, still, okay. Yeah, still, okay. Now I see, now we see that the data are coming, fake data are coming from the JSON server. However, it's not coming from, like for the suggestion, it's not coming from the fake backend. So I think we need to do some more debugging on this. This is API suggestions, and API suggestions should be forwarded, and in proxy it's also like this. So I think, let me just, for the demonstration purposes, do it like this. And we might need to start it once again because we changed proxy. And as far as I know, when we change proxies, we need to compile it again so that the proxy is considered because it's outside of the code. So let's have a look. No, still by. Okay, then I think I will fix it for later. Maybe I have some enlightenment after the talk, but because it worked before, it works on my machine, and we will we'll continue with some further options. So I've shown you the JSON server. The only problem with this option is that we have more dependencies, so we have to install an additional library. So, well, sometimes it might be not desirable. The more exotic options would be to use the snapshots of state management. So, for example, if you use ng-XS, ng-XS is metaphorically speaking a smaller version of NGRX, which has less boilerplate and it's less verbose. So what we did in one project, and this is quite specific, we had a POC which was big in itself, but it was a POC for even a bigger endeavor. So the client wanted to decide if they want to build a second Amazon, more or less, and they needed a POC for UI user acceptance testing. And we created an additional UI, an interface, and even an additional backend to store state management snapshots of the front end, so that we could share those states between browsers, between users, so that we had no functioning backend for the application itself. So all the data were mocked. However, all the state was stored in backend so that you can retrieve it later on to share. As I said, it's quite specific, and actually, yeah, you write a backend to fake a backend. It's a bit strange, but this is for specific purposes. If you wanna test your application, like for user acceptance testing, you need a lot of those scenarios. So you can prepare those snapshots of state snapshots for all the possible scenarios and share it with the testers. Another option would be to use cookies, and this is again something what we use in our current project. It is really hard to test error handling because usually you should just turn down the server and I don't know, to produce some 500 error or 404 or whatever, which is quite tedious, especially if many applications use this server. So what our developers came up with was a script which runs on APIC. So this is a layer which protects like between front end and back end, which protects back end more or less. So the testers are able to set cookies in the browser with the required path of the API and the desired outcome, the response that you want to get, for example, 500. So the request goes to the APIC layer, the script checks the cookies, and if the path matches, then instead of proxying this request back further to the backend service, it sends immediately the response with the desired content. And by these means, we can test error handling, because then we can produce any desired response that we have without tearing down the servers and without changing the code in the front-end application. So those were the options that we have. There's a couple of more, like you can also use some external APIs where you can paste your data and then you can get it back. But with all those options, coming back to the relationship and all this St. Valentine's theme, this is quite risky in a remote relationship to over-idealize the partners. So faking backend is necessary in some use cases, but we have to stay realistic and we have to develop with the responses that we can realistically get from our backend service and not the ones that we think would suit better. And with that, if we stick to this rule, front-end and backend can live happily ever after. Thank you for your attention. I'm sorry for this one bug that didn't work out of the box. Maybe I will write a solution later on in the chat. But if you have questions, feel free to ping me.